Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Akash and today in this particular video we will be going to dive into the fantastic topic in the world of a data science, that is a cluster sample. So let's dive into the whiteboard. So I will explain you what are the things we'll be going to discuss, what will be the agenda, what are the sort of stuffs we'll be going to do it. So first of all, welcome. I am welcoming you to my channel. All right. So we'll be going to understand about the cluster sample. So first of all, we will be going to understand about cluster sample. What we'll be going to do it, we'll try to understand that particular part. What we'll be going to do is we will break it down step by step and I will show you how this sampling. First we'll try to understand. So first we will try to understand how the sampling method will work. Okay. So we'll try to understand that part first so that you will able to understand what the sampling method is all about. Okay, and you will be able to understand like what's a cluster sampling is all about and how you can apply. And second third thing, you will be able to understand how you can apply. Okay, so you will be able to understand sampling method, how you can apply it to the real world scenario. We'll be going to discuss that part. So next part we'll be going to discuss about, we will take a one note folks, so things will work out. Basically what will be the agenda of this particular video first, then we'll try to understand. This is a day 3, right? So let's say we are understanding this particular part folks. Okay, try to understand this very clearly. Okay, so what will be agenda for this particular video and what we will be going to discuss in this particular video all about, and what will be the particular agenda basically for this particular video. So first we'll try to understand the concept first. Okay, we'll try to understand the concept of cluster sampling. Okay, first is the concept. Second, we'll try to understand the use case. Second, we'll try to explain the use case. Third, how you can apply the cluster sampling, how you can apply the cluster sampling in use. Third will be the use case. Third will be the conclusion, and whatever the things we have discussed, we'll be going to discuss that part is particular. Okay, let's dive into the straightforwardly understanding the concept first. Try to understand that particularly now. Try to understand the first of all concept. Okay, so what first of all we have to understand the things pretty much things into a greater details, like concept part you have to keep understanding that particular part. So we'll dive into the concept part, what the concept is all about. So as you all know, we are discussing about the cluster sampling. Okay, so what is a cluster sampling? Cluster sampling is a technique used in statistical analysis. What is a cluster sampling? It is a technique in statistical analysis. Okay, it is a technique in statistical analysis where population where the population is divided into the groups. Okay, so you have to understand population means we are talking about the whole. Like let's suppose I'm talking about the India, means I'm talking about the India, right? So this is a particular thing, I'm not talking about individually about the Karnataka. So the population is divided into the groups or a clusters. Okay, it is divided into the groups or a cluster which is selected for the study. Okay, which is selected for the study, unlike other sampling methods. Okay, so population is a large and spread out over wide area. Let's suppose I'm talking about the India, like overall the it is about, I'm talking about the India itself, right? I'm not talking about subgroups. So, so whatever the cluster sampling we are considering, we are dividing into the groups or clusters into a random sample of these clusters. Random of these clusters will be able to understand for the study. We will be using for the particular study basically, right? So this is a particular cluster we will be going to do it. All right. So here is a simple breakdown we can understand. One, Number one, we have to do the popular population division. Okay, there is a step-by-step process that we will be going to do for cluster sampling basically. Okay, for the cluster sampling, what we will be going to do, we will be applying three process over here. Okay, so three sub process. What is that? Three sub process. One is a population division. Okay, PD, population division. Second, we will be going to do cluster selection, population division, cluster selection. Then we will be sample it within the cluster. We'll create a sample within a cluster. Okay, are you understanding? SWC, sample within a cluster. So what's population division? Population division, what I meant to be is population division. What I mean is I will divide the entire population into a cluster that as I told. Okay, into the clusters usually based upon the some natural grouping. Example, for example, geographical areas, maybe the schools, maybe the companies, right? Then after that we'll be going to do it cluster selection. In the cluster selection, we will be randomly selecting the number of clusters from the total. Okay, then we'll create a sample of that and we'll collect the data from all members within the chosen cluster. Okay, within a chosen cluster, we will create a sample of that particular data, and alternatively what you will be going to do, you will be randomly sample within these clusters. Okay, you will sample that data within this cluster itself. Okay, you will sample the data with this. So I hope you this is particular thing you like, this is a concept folks will try to understand with related to the use case, so that you will understand. Okay, understand cluster analysis is nothing but dividing into the groups, basically dividing into the sub parts. There is a whole population, you are dividing into the subgroups basically. In India, let's suppose there are 28 states or 29 states. Okay, so that is within an India, these are the states, right? So they are divided. Are you getting my point, folks? Okay, so this is a particular, they are getting divided into it. Okay, so like that, if you wanted to solve any particular problem, we will be not doing the research based upon whole population. We'll be not asking each and every person to get the service. Okay, we'll try to understand with the use case so that you will able to correlate the things what I'm talking about it. Okay, okay, so this was it. Now next thing we're going to discuss. Okay, now we'll try to discuss about. Okay, we'll try to discuss about now use case. Okay, we'll try to understand the use case part so that you can correlate the things what I am talking about it. Okay, so use case, we'll be going to discuss that. So in the imagine you are a researcher. Okay, imagine, believe that you are a researcher person. Okay, you are a researcher. Imagine you are a researcher wanting to study. Okay, you want to study. You want to study the dietary habits of a school children. Okay, what you wanted to do? You wanted to study dietary habits of children. Okay, dietary habits of a children. You wanted to study the dietary habit of the children. So, school children in a large city. Okay, in a large city, you wanted to study that particularly. So tell me folks, okay, is it possible to visiting every school? Is it possible visiting visiting every school is impractical, right? Visiting every school is impractical. So folks, fo- tell me folks, what you think about it now? It will be very expensive and impractical thing. So instead of that, what you will do, you will divide the populations basically, right? Divide the based upon what dietary of the school, dietary habits of a school, right? What you will be going to do of a school children, what you will be going to do? You will be going to divide this based upon the population, right? Population division. That as I explained you the concept, we will be going to divide the population, right? Population division basically, right? This is a thing you will be going to do it, right? I hope this particular things gave you a clarity, giving you clarity, right? So we will be going to divide the population into the city, into the based upon the schools. Okay, we'll be going to divide it based upon the schools, based on schools. Are you getting my point, folks? Are you understanding what's the problem statement here? You wanted to understand about study the dietary health condition of a children in the large city, and it is very impractical visiting every school, right? And it is also an expensive task as well. So what you will be going to do, step number 1, you will be dividing the population based upon the city into the clusters based upon the schools. Okay, number two, this is number 1, you will be going to do population division. Number 2, what you will be going to do it, you will be selecting the clusters. Okay, you will divide the population into the clusters based upon the schools. Okay, let's say there are 10 schools, you will be going to create a 10 clusters for that. Okay, after that what you will be going to do, you will be selecting the clusters, cluster selection. Second thing, cluster selection, you will be going to do it, cluster selection, cluster selection, right? Cluster selection, you will be going to do it. So cluster selection, how is that possible? You will be randomly select a few schools. Okay, you will be randomly select a few schools, randomly select select few schools. And number 3, what we will be going to do is, point number 3, we'll sample within the cluster. So we will survey, okay, we'll survey all the student in this, we'll survey all the student in this selected, survey all selected. Yes, folks. So we'll sample with all the clusters and survey all the student in the selected clusters basically, right? That is only the we will be going to do it basically. Okay. So this method is efficient and cost effective, providing a representative a sample of that entire population. You will get the sample, right? At end of the things, we will be getting the sample of all the particular population which you have done. So this is a particular thing overall, the particular idea about the cluster sampling basically. Okay, so we'll try to understand next part. We'll try to understand about how we can apply this cluster sampling use case with with respect to one particular example, so that will make a really sense. Okay, so we will be going to understand about what a particular use case I am going to do it. So pretty much understanding about this particular use case that we'll be going to understand using the Python programming language, and we'll try to implement this particularly. We'll not try to limit ourselves with respect to the concept itself. We'll try to understand this particular use case with respect to one particular example. Okay, so you have to understand one particular thing, folks. You have to understand with the use case so that you will understand what we are talking about, right? So what we'll be going to do is we will use, okay, we will use what, which particular data set. I will just tell you, we will use a mall customer data set, okay, mall customer data set, which is available on the Kaggle. You can just take that particular data set on the Kaggle. Thanks. If you just write it as a mall data set, you will get that particularly. Okay. So where you will get Kaggle. Okay. This data set contains the information about the customers, and we will use the cluster sampling. Okay. What will be going to use? We will be going to use the cluster sampling. Okay. We will be using this cluster sampling. Okay. To analyze the customer spending behavior, to analyze customer spending behavior. You have to understand this customer spending behavior, CSB, customer spending behavior. So what's a particular problem statement will go like? Okay, so I will explain you the problem statement. So we'll just dive into the particular thing so that you will be able to understand what we are talking about. Problem statement. Okay, what will be the problem statement? Basically, we want to analyze a spending habit of mall. We have to analyze the spending habits of a customer in the mall customers dataset efficiently without surveying on the entire dataset. Okay, don't have to do the entire surveying for the entire dataset. Okay, I hope this you gets you the clarity that we have to analyze the spending habits of the mall customers efficiently without surveying the entire dataset. Okay, we have to understand the spending habits of a customer in the mall efficiently without the surveying the entire data set. So this will be going to the problem statement would be look like. So we'll try to understand. Okay, so we'll open the new notebook here. So we'll just write it as a cluster sampling implementation. Cluster sampling implementation. If you want it, I will just provide you the link, folks, in the comment down below. Just let me know. So what we're going to do is just close this, and here we'll import the libraries. Basically import the libraries, that is usually the numpy, pandas, all the stuffs in matplotlib and seaborn. Import numpy, pandas. We'll just try to use that as pd, and we'll just try to use a matplotlib plt. Okay, so this three libraries and seaborn as well. Okay, so three libraries we are using, and so that this will get imported, then second step will be going to follow. So second step will be going to loading a data set. Okay, so we'll just try to use a URL. This is a particular thing, iris.csv. So raw GitHub user content. Right, folks, so I will just pasting the URL here. You can just have a go through once. Okay, so I'll just copy this URL and paste it here. This URL basically. Okay. So you can just remove this angular bracket as well. No necessary, it is not necessary. So you can just load this particular data set. Yeah, URL has been taken. So we'll try to load this particular data set by the name data frame df equal to pd dot read underscore csv of URL. Okay, so I hope this particular thing is clear now. I hope this will work out. So we'll just see what error we are getting. HTTP error we are not found. Okay, HTTP error not found. Try to check, folks. Will it this will work? Don't think so. It will work. Okay, let me check with the mall customer dataset. So we'll get back. Yes, folks. Now it got worked. Okay, so the URL was different, so that's why it was not working. So we'll just try to check how it is working. Now it's fine. So now we'll just check the first five rows df.head. Okay, so what's a particular data set is all about? We'll try to understand that part. Okay, row number, ID number, date, problem, MDC, citation issued, person search, vehicle search, pre-race. These are the things, the data we are getting basically, folks. Okay, so these are the data we have basically. Problem, suspicious. These are the things we have. So what we do is we will be step by step. What we'll be going to do is here there is a column called gender, right? So what are who all are the male customer? Will be going to take that. So what will be our approach basically as the cluster sampling tells that, right? What we'll be going to do? We will be going to divide the number of clusters, divide the population into the clusters basically. My bad. Okay, so we'll be going to divide the population into the cluster, folks. Okay, divide the population into clusters. All right, and what we'll be going to do is we will be creating the cluster basis on this particular column, like gender column, assuming gender might be the influencing the spending the habits. Okay, so what we are doing is we are just basis on this particular gender, we are just making the dividing the population into the clusters basically. So what we are doing basically in this particularly, if you look at it, folks, okay, here it is able to generate recommended plots also. It is telling, right, how you can generate the code with df. That is also it is recommending. So you can learn from this particular aspect, like which are the graphs will be the best for this particularly. Okay, so how is cool is that, right? In the Google Colab, like it is recommending for us, right? So these are the key things you can explore it. And if you wanted to generate the code, that is also possible. See, suggested plot, data frame for Colab Pro versions, folks. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll close this particularly off it, otherwise it will generate still more plots for us. Okay, so we'll just get dive into this particularly. So what will be going to divide the male customers, okay, basis on the gender. So male customers, which is equal to data frame df of, inside that df, one particular value, okay, equal to male or not. Okay, so df, you have to close this. Okay, equal to gender is male, then we are creating the data frame for them. Okay, so what you can do is you can add this whole thing into here. Okay, so this will, I guess this will find I'm making mistake. Okay, the same thing you can implement it for female as well. Okay, male and female, we have divided the number of clusters, population into the clusters basically, right? So now second aspect is we will be going to randomly select the one cluster. Okay, so what I will do is basically, folks, I will just copy the code and I will explain you what the things will be going to do it. Just a second. Yes, folks. So what happened is like that data set was not available in the data set. So what I did is I download this particular data set, folks. Okay, I will just share you the description, the data set link, so you can go through that and you can just download this particular data set, or I will provide you this particular data set link, so you can just download there. Okay, so that will be fine actually. So get back to this particular thing, folks. I will be going to explain you like what we have done is basically we just imported the libraries, we just load the data set, then we are just finding out the first 5 rows, what are the particular columns is all about. Okay, so this is a particular thing as we will, based upon the gender, we will be going to understand the spending score basically. Okay, so what we are doing is basically we are dividing the population into the clusters basically. So we are creating the two variables like male customers, and we are redirecting with the particular column gender, whether it is male or female basically. So we are creating the clusters. Okay, and what's annual income basically X will contain. Okay, we have an annual column as a income, so this is a particular thing we are doing basically. Okay, so this is particularly, folks. Okay, so we have created the cluster randomly. You are selecting the one cluster, either male or female customers, which is a selected cluster is about, we'll be going to do it here. Okay, so if we just see here, maybe something is missing. So instead of that, what you can do is, why? Because we don't have this particular X, we can take it as TF of annual income. Okay, so we can consider this as a annual income, this column. Okay, so we can take it that, and the spending score. Okay, so sorry for that, folks. Okay, you can consider this data as TF of. Okay, so this is a particular thing, and okay, you will able to understand the graphs basically, spending habits of male customer, right? So you will be able to understand of a selected customer, like you will be able to understand like this is an annual income and what is the spending score basically. Okay, so this is a particular like selected cluster. You will be able to understand like how the cluster sampling is all about. Okay, this is a particular thing, folks. Okay, so these are the things that you have to keep a note of it. So what we can do it. Okay, what are the limitation that and improvements that has to be done for this particular case. Okay, so we'll try to list it down so that you will understand. So what are the limitation of this basically, we'll try to understand that part basically, so then we'll conclude this particular topic. Okay, so I know it is taking too much time. Okay, so I will make sure that you understand the things. Number one is bias. Okay, if cluster are not homogeneous, if cluster are bias, homogeneous is nothing but same, right? If the cluster are not same, sample may not be representative. Okay, if the cluster are not same, then the sample may not be representative. Okay, so second thing is cluster size variability. Uneven cluster sizes lead to imbalances. Second thing is cluster size variability will come into the picture, and imbalance particular thing called limitation will come. Okay, cluster size variability, uneven cluster size can lead to imbalances. Okay, number one, number two, third is a data loss. Okay,
So this is a one particular thing, the limitation of this particular uh, technique basically, and how we can improve this particularly. If I wanted to improve this particular method, so we can use a stratified cluster sampling. Combined with stratification ensures that there is a more balanced and representative samples. Okay, number one is stratified sampling. We can include stratified sampling. Number two, we can increase the cluster count. We can increase the cluster count. So select more cluster to improve the representation. We will select the more clusters. And third is we can use weighted sampling. Okay, we can use a weighted sampling. Okay, so weighted sampling that will adjust for the cluster size visibility, so variability. Basically this is a particular thing that we can use this certain method so that we can include this particularly. So finally we'll try to summarize the things what we learned in this particular video, so you will be able to understand. Okay, to summarize, the cluster sampling is valuable method when you are dealing with large dispersed population. Large and dispersed population, if you are dealing with, this method is best suitable. Okay, large and dispersed so populations. It simplifies the sampling process, it reduces the cost, and it can yield reliable results if applied correctly. Okay, in this particular demo we understood the we took the customer data set, right? We applies the cluster sampling, right? We applied the cluster sampling to this particular data set, and we understood how cluster sampling can be applied, to understand, to identify the spending habits efficiently. Okay, we understood that process, right? So that is also we understood. So thank you for watching up till the end, folks. Okay, if you found this video helpful or useful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, that is Akash Ramant. As you know, stay tuned for more insightful content on data science and analytics, data science kind of stuffs, analytics. We'll see you in next time. Okay, so that's it about this particular video. I hope you liked it, the content which I am creating.